commemorate that day on Eagles 102.3. Before we get into the conversation this morning, we would be looking at the new trending news stories. In trending news stories this morning, President Muhammadu Buhari may be signing the reworked Electoral Act Amendment Bill and may in fact sign the bill today, but on the condition that the National Assembly would amend the contentious Clause 84, which infringes on the constitutional rights of certain category of people. The contentious act bars political appointees, or contentious aspects rather, bars political appointees from contesting elections and voting as delegates, either at conventions or congresses after assenting to it. The president, who already met with the leadership of the two chambers of the National Assembly, was awaiting assurances from the leadership of the National Assembly to amend the bill after signing it into law. Similarly, barring any last-minute changes, President Buhari is expected to meet with governors of the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC) tomorrow at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. It was gathered that the meeting, initially scheduled to hold on Tuesday last week, was put off shortly before the president jetted out of the country on a 4-day official visit to Brussels, Belgium, to attend the EU-AU summit. Sources say the rescheduled meeting on Buhari's orders would critically address unfolding issues, including the consideration of a new date for the party's convention, slated for Saturday, February 26, 2022. And the national leader of the All Progressives Congress (APC), Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, said no amount of intimidation and blackmail would stop him from aspiring to be president of the country, adding that he was equally ready to get dirty with his traducers. He stated this when he visited the Olubadan designate Dr. Lekan Balogo at his Alarere residence in Ibadan, Oyo State, on Sunday. Tinubu, who said he was ready to be dirty with anyone in his quest to become the president of the country, said he came to the newly appointed Olubadan and, by extension, the Ibadan people to solicit for their support. And part of our talking points this morning, the National Executive Council of the Striking Academic Staff Union of Universities will meet today at midnight. Sources the union revealed that after the meeting, the NEC members will meet federal government officials later in the week, as it had last week Monday declared a nationwide 4-week rollover strike after a 2-day meeting at the University of Lagos, Akoka. And to our talking points today, World Day of Social Justice is observed on February 20 every year. The main objective is celebrating World Day of Social Justice is to raise a voice against social injustice and to bring the various communities internationally together to eliminate poverty, gender inequality, physical discrimination, illiteracy, religious discrimination, to make a socially integrated society. The theme for this year's World Day of Justice is achieving social justice through formal employment. And just to give a background to that, the International Labour Organization unanimously adopted the ILO Declaration on Social Justice for a Fair Globalization on the 10th of June 2008. And to joining us this morning would be Okeke Grace Eche, Operations Manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa Initiative. She'll be discussing the subject with us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Okeke Grace. Good morning.
Good morning.
Right, and to get to it quickly, how did you get here this morning? Was it easy? Was it hard?
Well, it wasn't easy, but at least I can say it's a little more easy as compared to last week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to it. So we live in a country where there's a lot that needs to be said about social justice. First, for those who don't understand, what's social justice?
Well, for those who don't understand, social justice has to do with granting access to basic amenities to individuals and citizens as a group living in a particular territory, granting them access to amenities such as good healthcare facilities, good and quality education, roads, water, clean water, electricity. So those basic amenities are things that constitute what a person should have, the rights and privileges of a person living in a society. So justice being done is you getting access to these amenities.
And the access to these amenities by everyone and every single, individual in the country or internationally, right? So the equal opportunities available to everyone. Now, we live in a country where people would say there are no equal opportunities. Like, some animals are more equal than others in the Nigerian state. And to look at the theme for this year's, World Social Justice Day, it's, achieving, what's it called now? Achieving social justice through formal employment. Let's talk about that for a minute. We live in a country where it's projected that this year unemployment rate would hover around 32%. Well, if that's the case, we saw that unemployment rate was about 32% last year. And if that's the issue, we're not talking about underemployment. We're not talking about unemployable people, How can we get to the point where, employment or unemployment will be reduced drastically? We live in a country where if you apply for a job, it's not about how qualified you are. It's about who you know, who speaks on your behalf. You say, people ask you first, who do you know at where you applied? Isn't that an anomaly? Shouldn't that be addressed, as we talk about social justice?
Of course, that is an abnormality. It's something that needs to be addressed, and in fact, it's something that should be taken as an emergency in this society, especially Nigeria, because a lot of youths before COVID and post-COVID lost jobs. Those jobs are yet to be filled. Lots of these youths are out there. I'm using youths because they're majority that constitute maybe should I use the word nuisance, when they can't find something meaningful to engage in. So the government needs to make enabling environment where these youths can be reabsorbed into the system. Formal job or formal employment could be government's own jobs, where white-collar job, the popular parlance white-collar job. But then there are other sectors, there are other dimensions of the youth that might not really fit into the formal white-collar job setting, but you should make proper setting where even if I don't have a university degree, I can still get a job. Skill-based jobs, formal and informal jobs should actually be one of the things we should be clamoring for in the society, so that if I can't fit into the white-collar job, I can fit into the ones that my skills can get me. And then jobs should not be based on whom referred you or whom you know or who you don't know. It should be something based on merits. Just as you get into the university, you sit for your exams. So if you're not qualified, you can't write your post-UME.
Even in the universities, we have a situation where, people buy admissions and people lobby admissions through who they know.
Of course, it exists, but to a larger extent. I know for myself, most persons didn't go in there because they know someone. A larger population get in because they had the cutoff mark and they were able to get admitted. A lot of persons are out because they've not gotten that cutoff mark. So even getting in there by someone you still have to have money. So we have to make an enabling environment where you work based on merits, so that the days you spent in school, you feel like, oh, you've achieved something, you can put it to use, and it's for the betterment of the society. How would the society be developed if you cannot put in the skills you've learned into use? So rather than making it such a way that it's difficult for persons to get into the sector, and then they get frustrated, I see a situation where we should ensure that recruitment processes are made easy and accessible, especially federal government-owned jobs. I think that is where we have most of these issues. A lot of people say, oh, I want to work for the federal government, but I have to save a certain amount so I can be able to get the job. So we have to eliminate that if we want to actually get social justice for every other Nigerian that is qualified to work. that has gotten to the age of employability, let's say employability age. So we have to eliminate that godfatherism, we have to eliminate ethnicity, we have to eliminate every form of tribalism. In fact, religious sentiment and all those things, they are the things that cost us a lot when it comes to getting access to jobs for youths in Nigeria and other persons that are qualified to work.
We'll look at some of these other, issues that affect unemployment in the country, such as race discrimination, age. There's that one where people have to, if you're beyond a certain age, you're just considered it's gone. Forget it. You can't get a job. Shouldn't that be addressed? We'll be talking about that in a bit. Stay with us. This is your radio experience you can count on. Eagles 102.3.
Abuja.
Let's spice up your day. Tune into a breath of fresh air. It's all fun and games until it gets extra and better. 102.3 Extra, weekdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with Oli J. Cheers to something new.
Thank you again for staying with us. This is your radio experience you can count on. You're on to Eagles Outlook. And this morning we're talking the World Day of Social Justice 2022. And the theme for this year's, which was commemorated yesterday, but we're talking about it this morning, is achieving social justice through formal employment. Our guest today is Okeke Grace Eche, who is Operations Manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa Initiative, and she's been talking with us. You can join the conversation. Call 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. So yes, before we took a pause, we were talking about unemployment and how Nigerians are suffering in that regard. Some people who they say are very unqualified, but because they know somebody, get a job ahead of a person who is very qualified. And sometimes you hear people say, oh, he's overqualified. Some people say, oh, his age, on account of his age, we can't give him the job, or we can't give her the job because she's old, or she's too old for the position, for the role. These are issues that are stopping a lot of people from getting employment, and it's actually unjust. It is highly unjust. Age should not be a basis for discrimination. And well, let's talk about that for a bit, Grace. So you have people who go through school. For instance, in the Nigerian setting, Nigerian system, people go through school, maybe go through high school, and it takes them another 5 years, or in some cases 10 years before they get admission into the higher institution. They graduate, and then by the time they're graduating, they're probably 30-something. And you have employers who would say, oh, we're only employing people between 25 and below. And if you look at it, it actually just makes certain people, unemployable. And some people are unemployed for that reason. What do we think we can do to address this?
Thank you very much, Yana. So it's a very pressing issue, actually, because a lot of persons go to school at a later age. So even start with, there are some persons that are not even able to get to school because they're financially down at that moment. So they still get to go back to school later in life. So what I would say to that is, if we should have a modality, the government should have a stringent policy that caters for the need of different dimensions of persons in the society. These are issues that should be looked into inwardly. Persons who graduate from school late, okay, for NYSC, if you graduate from school when you're older than 30, you can't serve. So if there are such considerations, then they probably should know that there will be a situation where persons graduate before that age. And there is a limited age for anyone who wants to work in the Nigerian sector, in the employment sector, especially for federal government. So there should be modalities for tackling such challenges, where you should not be discriminated against based on the age you graduated from school. provided you have the skill and the zeal, you have the energy, because apparently it's energy you need to work with. Even if these days we say work smart, but you still need energy while working smart. Provided a person is still smart and fit to work and qualifies, I don't see any reason why you should discriminate against that person because the person probably left school at 30 or left school at 40. If the person is still very much energetic and can deliver, the essence of a working place is for you to get people who can deliver on your objectives. So if persons are able to deliver, then give them the opportunity to prove it. So we shouldn't restrict people. Most times in our recruitment processes, we make it such that we even eliminate those that seem to be the better fit. Because I've seen recruitment processes where the first phase, they'll say, if you didn't graduate with a 2-1, you can't apply for it. And I've seen a couple of smart guys, ladies, that came out from school with something below 2-1. But they can't apply because there's that rule that has already eliminated them. It's discriminative. So such rules should actually be sanctioned. If I'm to be asked, it should be sanctioned because such persons have been denied the opportunity of proving themselves to the society, and the skills they have, the talents, what they've learned so far, you can't harness them because you've not given them the opportunity. Doors should not be shut on the face of those that got something lesser in school or those whose ages are what we think to be above the working age. But as far as I'm concerned, someone who is, most of our presidents they're way above 30, way above 40, 60. Even in other countries, we have presidents. If presidents can be 70, 60, and they are still functional, then why do you think that someone who is 30 or 40 cannot be productive in the workplace? So those stringent rules that discriminate against persons based on age and what not should actually be sanctioned. I think it's something that the government should look into, or CSOs and NGOs should critically look into those things.
Well, we're talking about the World Day of Social Justice. You can be a part of the conversation. What has been your encounter? What has been your experience, especially as regards employment or unemployment, as the case may be? The theme for this year's World Day of Social Justice is achieving social justice through formal employment. If you have an experience where you have been discriminated against on account of any of these, maybe your race, your gender, your ethnicity, your age, just about anything, let us know. Share those thoughts with us. Call in 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. You can send us a message on 090-9705-4450. Now, social justice also refers to, fairness in the distribution of wealth of a nation, and healthcare, all of that. We have a situation where a lot of people are denied medical attention on account of where they live, where they stay. We have a drive to improve the primary health care, but then on account of how much people earn, some people are unable to get quality health care because, well, we don't have a similarly working healthcare insurance in the country. And even when we do, the people in the rural areas may not even be aware of these. When it comes to wealth distribution, there are people who are clamoring, we're making more money than others. We have more resources than other people in this country. How come, we should be getting more? Is there fairness in that? Is there justice in that?
Well, thank you, Hanacho. This is a very crucial topic for Nigerians, especially when money is involved. A lot of things take shape. So, in the Nigerian context, to be honest, talking about social justice, I can't particularly say for myself that I've experienced a lot of justice in terms of wealth distribution. Speaking of those in the rural area, they are, I think, the dimensions of persons that are most marginalized in terms of wealth distribution. They are those affected mostly when it comes to employment, because they are not in these cities where, in the urban setting where most people feel is where we have the greener pasture. A lot of things don't get to them. If we in the cities cry for light, imagine those living in the rural area. If you cry for water, imagine those living in the rural area. So these are persons that really need to be put into consideration. A lot needs to be done in terms of going back to grassroots. Most times during our campaigns, we always talk about grassroots. What's grassroots? There are those persons that are back there doing everything it takes to ensure that society is working well, the ecosystem is working well, everything is moving great, but they are not getting the distribution of wealth that they deserve. Most of them live just from hand to mouth. Most persons feed from their farms. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and she was like, do you know that there are some persons that have not held 5,000 naira? Like, they've not held one bunch of 5,000 naira, and a whole lot is going wrong, and we are not addressing the issues. So the persons in the rural area are those that we should be looking at how to help. How can we help these persons? Some of them, okay, we might say we're talking about employability. Some of them might not be employable in terms of educational qualification. But there comes the informal working sector that I spoke of earlier. How can you engage these persons to ensure that, okay, even if they don't get the license to work in a formal setting where they wear suit and tie, they can still be useful to the society and themselves. You get them jobs, hands-on skills that can fetch them income, daily income that will accumulate to something that will be meaningful for them, and also help in training their kids. Because most of the issues we have in the society, especially in security, it stems from persons not being able to fend for themselves daily. So if you can't have what to eat, you will look for the best possible means of getting food on your table. So these persons need to be reached. CSOs and, in fact, NGOs are doing a larger grade of the work, if I'm to be asked, because they go down to the communities to ensure that they distribute food to them. But far from distributing food, how can we ensure that they are being useful to themselves?
Now, the federal government has the SIP, that's the Social Investment Program, and where they're handing 5,000 naira to indigent people, and they say the poorest of the poor. Do you think that that's working, and that can solve the problem of wealth distribution in any way?
Well, I wouldn't say it solves the problem. I think the tree method is always the best. Solving problem has to do with you getting down to the root of the problem. The problem is not just the 5,000 naira. How long is 5,000 naira going to take a person? And in times like this, transportation alone takes like 5,000 naira off your pockets in 1 hour. So imagine giving 5,000 to a person. For how long is a family going to feed on 5,000 naira? So getting them meaningfully employed, I think that is going to a large extent solve our problem. Getting them a job that they can put their skills to, something that fetches them money. It might not be 5,000 every month, but they have a regular source of income. That is where we can say that, okay, we've actually done justice to persons that are living in rural areas. Not just handing them 5,000 naira. 5,000 naira is not, how many, some of them have like more than 4 or 5 kids. How much per person would that go to ensure that 5,000 naira can feed you for a month?
Let's talk about corruption. It's been said to be one of the reasons why we have an uneven distribution of wealth in this country, where, the top 1% takes everything to themselves and leaves, or takes a larger chunk of national wealth to themselves, and we call it national cake, and everybody wants to get a portion of that, leaving the majority of Nigerians to suffer. In your thinking, what is the reason we have had this continuously? What can the ordinary people do to ensure an even distribution of wealth, where a few people would not just plunder the national wealth?
Okay, thank you, Hanacho. Accountability is key. And I believe that for you to be able to hold someone accountable, you should have a transparent or a clean hand yourself. I often say that our electoral processes, most times as citizens, we contribute to some of the ills. What I mean is a situation where I go campaigning and I hand down notes to everyone and we are accepting it. It's laying a foundation. You might not see it as, it's going to affect. You might feel like, this is where I can get the best I can get for the now. But what about tomorrow? if we make it as a policy, Nigerians make it as a policy to demand that there should be fair campaigning procedure, then we can, to a large extent, hold persons up there, the sacred cows, if I may use that word. We can hold them accountable to every penny that they are supposed to spend on social amenities in Nigeria. But a situation where we expect them to spend so much during campaign, we feel like we've sold our rights already. It's more like selling your birthright. So where you are selling your votes, you can't demand anything from someone. So I think it's the best way to demand accountability from leaders is to ensure that you lay the process, you make it plain, transparent, so they know that you are not going there because you handed us food or money. You are going there because we expect you to work, and we are going to ask you for every penny that is allocated to your seat. So Nigerians should start thinking of that political procedure where you do not look at what someone is giving to you before they climb up there. You look at what they have to offer. And then you tell them that tomorrow, if you come campaigning in my constituency, I'll tell you that we are not accepting some things here. We don't take any form of monetary compensation. We are looking at what you're going to deliver tomorrow. And if you're not able to deliver, you are telling us that we have the right to question you or to bring you down at any point. So that is the procedure I feel we should start looking at following. We should start doing away with the mindset of getting what we can at the very moment and then forgetting what the future holds. And then for the leaders too, I feel that there should be a change of heart, a change of mind. The mindset of our leaders most times is really not helping matters. A lot of them might not really go there because they need to serve. Most of them are not servant leaders. What we need at this point, if we want to do away with corruption, we need servant leaders. Servant leaders that know that they are there to deliver on a mandate and not to to amass wealth for themselves. So if you have at heart the citizens you are coming to represent, then you should know that every penny counts. For example, a leader, a good leader or a servant leader is someone who looks at other countries and say, oh, I would wish that in the next 5 years my country should look like this country, and work towards it. So even if it means having 1 point agenda and you work on that particular 1 point agenda and deliver on it, it's the best. And then again, continuity. We don't have the culture of continuation in Nigeria, sorry to say, because we've seen events where past leaders, once they are out of the seat, another leader comes in and starts a new project, the old one dies. That is resource being wasted. So our human resource and our material resources are being wasted if we do not have the culture of continuity. So once we can set straight the mandate for which you want to serve, being a servant leader, and then the reasons for why you want to be a leader, if we have those things straight, then citizens also making straight the plan for tomorrow, doing away with all forms of the now and taking upon them the need for a safer tomorrow, then we can actually do away with corruption to a large extent.
Well said. The conversation continues. We're talking World Day of Social Justice, and our guest has been Okeke Grace Eche, who's the program manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa Initiative. Keep it with us, and right after this, we will be taking your thoughts. Call 090-7353-0044 or 090-8766-8888. The WhatsApp and SMS go to 090-9705-4450. Don't forget, you can watch us live on YouTube and Facebook at Eagles FM Abuja. Go there and be a part of the conversation.
Turn your speakers up. The music is lit.
Oh, yeah, take all my money, put them for your head.
Guess who's in town? We are the new sound of music.
Eagles 102.3.
I can tell it's been lying and pretending that it's faithful and he loves you.
Hanging out with friends is such a hobby, but chilling with your girlfriends? such a booster. We talk about love, family, relationship, the shady, hilarious, fun, juicy, messy gossip in town. And oh, the gentlemen aren't off the table. Girlfriends with Olije, Mondays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Exclusive to Eagles 102.3 FM, Abuja.
Has anyone told you you can talk about your business on radio for just 15,000 naira? Get a chance to talk your business for 25 minutes on The Entrepreneur. Mondays to Thursdays, 3 p.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM, Abuja. For more inquiries, call 090-9984-4433. 090-9984-4433. The Entrepreneur. Talk your business for just 15,000 naira. This promo runs from February 1st to April 30th. Hurry now.
Eagles Morning Rise. Eagles Morning
Rise with
Natural Prince. 9:41 is the time. Thank you for staying with us on Eagles 102.3, your radio experience you can count on. We're talking this morning the World Day of Social Justice, and our guest is Okeke Grace Eche, Operations Manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa Initiative, and she's been talking with us about social justice and what we can do to get it better in our dear country, Nigeria. Join the conversation now. Call 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Send your messages to 090-9705-4450. I'm bringing a caller now. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Ayomide, is that you?
Yeah, Ayomide.
Ayomide,
Good morning to the guests in the house. How was the weekend?
Very fine,
Very well.
thank you.
Yeah, happy money making Monday.
Happy money making Monday to you too.
Yeah, my friend, our guests have said it all. In fact, I was so amazing this morning when he was saying things about we Nigerians individuals, what we call these people, like coming to campaign for us with selling our rights with just less than 1,000 naira. I called on this line to tell you what I saw that day. They were campaigning about the area council's elections. The way they sell their votes, their rights with just 30,000 naira with a lot of people. In fact, Nigeria will need to learn a lot. These people are not doing justice to us in this country. They do anyhow they like. That tomorrow, because they use money to campaign, or they use money to buy us, we cannot go there and complain tomorrow. And many who are doing these things are still doing it. Nigerians should learn a lot by not selling their rights with just a little amount of money. Look at what's happening in the country generally. Look at our effect, every sector in this country. Look at the way it is. I'll just say something concerning people travel, these our leaders travel to other countries and see how developed the other countries are. Instead of them to bring the development in their country, that would be very easy for them to use. But no way, they don't have this thing. People are talking about age. It's not age in this capacity. We are talking about the credible someone that can rule us in the way it's supposed to be. Someone who have the people in mind. That is how it's supposed to be.
All right.
Thank you, God bless you.
Thank you so much, Ayomide, for calling in. I appreciate your thoughts, Ayomide. You too can be a part of the conversation. Let us in on your thoughts. Now, we cannot talk about social justice and not talk about criminal justice. And criminal justice administration in the country, we have a situation where people have been calling for, prison reforms. There are a lot of innocent people who are locked behind bars. Your organization, Hope Behind Bars Africa Initiative, you should be in a better position to tell us about, the kind of reforms that we need to see in the judiciary to be able to have innocent people walk free rather than spend their lives in prisons on account of very, little issues. You want to tell us about that?
Okay, yes, Ihanacho. Thank you very much. So this is very interesting, because there are a lot of persons behind bars in Nigeria. Some go in for a crime, and some are unlawfully incarcerated. That's those persons who were just sent to jail for crimes they did not commit. And when you get to the correctional centers, you see a lot of persons. You see youths, vibrant youths, behind bars. Some of them have been there for years without trial. Some of them have spent 2 years and above waiting for the day they will go to court. That is an infringement, because if you have committed a crime, at least you should be given the platform to be defended. Then if you are found wanting or guilty, then you can be convicted, and then you go behind bars and do the terms. We are not just saying you shouldn't do terms for crimes committed, but a situation where we have some innocent persons behind bars. They are there because they are yet to be proven otherwise. It's saddening. So justice should be done to persons behind bar in the sense of speedy access to trials. If persons have been accosted by the police, at least they should be taken to courts. They shouldn't be made to stay behind bars for years, waiting for when they would have to see a lawyer. A lot of lawyers we have from our organization, we offer pro bono legal services. So we go behind bars to see persons that are there and take up their cases. And most times you find out that there are cases that within a few months the person should just be out, or even in a day the person can be out, but that person has spent over months, years behind bars, just waiting for when they will go.
No, is it that the state is unable to provide them legal representation, or that they're not interested in getting, or they don't know about getting legal representation just so that they can get out of prison or the correctional centers?
Well, a lot of persons know that they are lawyers, but in Nigeria we don't have the liberty of every inmate having a lawyer to himself. Of course, it still boils down to our financial capabilities. So most persons would have lawyers to themselves, and most persons can't even afford to get a lawyer. And some inmates don't even know that there are some lawyers that could represent them pro bono. So our organization is out there to ensure that we take your case up and we follow it through, to ensure that you get justice, to ensure that there's speedy access to justice to inmates, to reduce the timeline for waiting behind bars before you can be convicted or acquitted for a crime. And other things we also do as a form of reform is to see that there's this discrimination against persons who have left the correctional centers. Most times they seem to be tagged unemployable. So once you've gone behind bars and you're out, you are seen to be one hardened criminal. Maybe you could have gone in maybe you were wrongly picked among persons that committed a crime, but just for the fact that you've been behind bars, most persons wouldn't want to be associated with you in their organizations. So how do we ensure that these persons are useful to themselves in the society and useful to the society too? So for my organization, we do a Made in Corrections program. We go behind bars, we teach these persons skills, life skills that would generate them income while they are behind bars, and also help them to get money, to get employed when they are out of the correctional centers. So that's what the Made in Corrections is all about. We are looking at a future where persons who leave the correctional centers can actually make a life for themselves. So you don't come out. The other day we went to the correctional centers, and I was hearing a story of someone who was acquitted, and he pleaded to spend one more day behind bars. That was because he knows he has nowhere to go to and possibly no source of income. So how do we employ these persons? Provide employability scheme for them so that once they leave, they can be employed. It also goes a long way to reduce the rate of persons who go back to prison or to the correctional center. It's a reform on its own, because we are speaking of congestion, prison congestion. So to decongest, we have to ensure that those who leave have a place of succor, getting them employed, meaningfully and gainfully employed. If they are not meaningfully and gainfully employed, they will go back to crime. to live a life free of crime, we've designed a program for them. We give them services, pro bono services, to get them justice. We also try to train them to see that when they leave, they get employed.
Now, what can the state, what can Nigeria as a nation do? Because like you mentioned, it's not just in Nigeria where people, come out of prisons and they become discriminated against. What can we do to ensure that people like this, what can the Nigerian state do to ensure that people who come out of prisons are not discriminated against on account of the people who have been in prison and have been able to get, education? They've been able to, better themselves in prison. These people should not be discriminated against.
Okay, yes. A lot of times, what we work with are policies. Policies are what makes an enabling environment for persons to be accepted in a particular organization. So, if the government can come up with policies that say that persons that have gone behind bars and gone through the correctional proceedings and are out should be allowed to still be useful to the society. Anyone who kicks against that is kicking against the government. So government should have policies that cater for the needs of persons that have gone behind bars and have passed through correctional centers, rehabilitation, and are out and reintegrated into the society. So it's a thing of policy, and it's a thing that government have to, more like a mandate to the persons, to people, to citizens, to employers of labor, to say that, this is a policy that we have, that persons that have gone behind bars and are out, provided they've been proven otherwise, give them the platform to still be useful, to be employed, because most of them are very vibrant youth that can still be useful. If they cannot channel their energy to something very positive, they will do otherwise. They will channel it in something that will become a vice to the society. So the government should lay down policies that would make an enabling environment for persons that have gone behind bars, that when they are out, they can be employed.
Okay. All right. So we have this message here from Excel. Excel says, "Good morning, Ihanacho. This happened to me some time ago when I was at the brink of getting a banking job. I had written the aptitude test, done the first and second round interviews, but I wasn't contacted afterwards. Meanwhile, my fellows started getting emails for medical tests. So I sent them a mail to ask why I didn't make it through, and they replied that my age exceeded their requirement. It was sad for me because the said age requirement was 27 and I had just clocked 28 2 weeks earlier because I applied when I was 27. Well, that's somewhat some level of injustice there. Would you agree?
Yeah.
All right. We've been talking this morning with Okeke Grace Eche, Operations Manager, Hope Behind Bars Africa Initiative. She's spoken at length as regards social justice in Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us in the conversation today.
Thank you, Hanacho.
And good morning, guys. Again, Olije is here. And the hairdo, what do you call this one, Olije? Exactly. She said, "Don't stress me." I was going to say, what? You look
traditional. Let's do Africa, please.
Okay.
We talked about beads last week Wednesday, and good morning. Talked about beads last week Wednesday, and it was a crazy conversation. So I decided to flaunt all of that on my hair.
Okay. You guys need to go see Olije.
Yeah.
Join the conversation.
Pleasantly welcome.
Get on YouTube and Facebook and see your queen, ladies and gentlemen. In a bit, it's 102.3 Extra. Before then, business news right here on your radio experience you can count on. Thank you again to everyone who's been a part of the conversation this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Stay here on your radio experience you can count on. My name is Ihanacho Prince. Keep it with us.
Break it down, Back to the music in 3, 2, 1.
Get the show on the road.
Back to some more music right here. Check it out right here.
Time to break it down now. Break it down.
Eagles 102.3.
Can I please have your attention?
Download the Eagles FM app from Android Store or Apple Store.
And get the greatest music ever made.
The music of my generation.
You can watch us live or stream live on YouTube, Facebook, and the official website www.eaglesfm.com. Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja, your radio experience you can count on. Welcome to Eagles 102.3 News Beats. News Beats.
Data obtained from the National Bureau of Statistics have shown that the Nigerian insurance industry grew by 8.01% in 2021 compared to a negative growth rate of 13.29% in 2020. The NBS in its gross domestic product report for the fourth quarter of 2021 said the insurance industry also accounted for 7.82% of the finance sector. According to the report, the underwriting industry recorded negative growth of 2.08% in the first quarter of 2021. It, however, expanded by 16.41%, 7.86%, and 13.61% in the second, third, and fourth quarters of 2021. The cost of premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol, may hit or exceed 180 naira per litre in most filling stations in coming weeks if nothing is done about a recent hike in its ex-depot price by private depot owners. It was gathered that most private depot owners recently raised the cost of petrol from the approved 142 naira to 145 naira per litre to between 162 naira to 170 naira per litre. These oil marketers said had already made some filling stations owned by independent marketers to start dispensing fuel at 180 naira per litre above the approved and regulated pump price of 165 naira per litre. But the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, that is Nigeria's sole importer of petrol, said it is not aware of the hike in price by private depot owners. The Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Contents Development and Monitoring Board, Simba Wabote, has said the implementation of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Contents Development Act has created over 50,000 direct jobs in the local economy over the past 11 years. Wabote said this in Lagos during separate breakfast meetings he held with members of the Guilds of Corporate Online Publishers. According to him, the level of Nigerian content in the oil industry stood at around 5% between the enactment of the noted act in 2010. He added that implementation of the Nigerian content law resulted in an increase to 26% in 2016 and 42% as of December 2021. Wabote said the NCDMB had launched the Nigerian content 10-year strategic roadmap in 2017 with a target to achieve 70% Nigerian content by 2027. The Accident Investigation Bureau on Sunday said a total of 2,038 lives were lost to air crashes in Nigeria in the past 53 years. It therefore tasked the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority to mandate airlines to develop assistance plans for the families of air crash victims in Nigeria. AIB's Chief Executive Officer Akino Letoro disclosed this in Abuja at the 2022 International Day for the Commemoration of Air Crash Victims and their families. He said when an aircraft accident or serious incident occurs, it is always an unexpected and mostly fatal event that causes great distress and loss to the victims and their families. Lazaro noted that to support families of victims of air crashes, the International Civil Aviation Organization came up with policies to champion this. And finally, the federal government is making concerted efforts to ensure that the ban on bees exports from Nigeria to the European Union is lifted to stimulate the country's export potentials and better the lot of stakeholders in the bees export value chain. The Trade Promotion Advisor, Ado Ekiti Assistance Office Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Iyabode Abe, said the efforts included sensitization of beans farmers and merchants on good agricultural practices and avoidance of indiscriminate use of chemicals. Abe, who spoke in Ado Ekiti at a technical session on value chain export development to address chemical residue in storage of dried beans for export, said the inability to export beans to EU countries had made a negative impact on the country's gross domestic products. That's the news. I am Palum David. Good morning.
Thanks for listening. Join us again for more updates on Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Eagles 102.3